Good morning, everyone. Hopefully you can all hear me okay. Excuse me for the headphones, it's just so I can make sure I can hear everything that's going on. Welcome to our first inaugural webinar on digital skills. This morning you have myself, Chris Wright, IT coordinator from Perth and Kinross Council, and the fabulous Jackie Martin from the digital office. And we've also got Siobhan Martin with us as well. So Siobhan is fantastic, so she'll be kind of running things behind the scenes. Please, during the course of the webinar, we have a chat box, so if you could use that for any questions that you might have, even throughout the presentation, we'll try our best to keep a very, very close eye on them, but also for any issues that you're having, if you use the chat box as well. Hopefully, presentation-wise, we're looking at around maybe half an hour, 40 minutes, just depending on how quickly we get through it. We are also recording this so that anyone who potentially couldn't make it, or if you want to share it at a later date, Siobhan will put out some comms, so how to access this via the Knowledge Hub, etc. So, without further ado, let's crack on with our webinar. So, developing the workforce for the future. So let's have a look right at the very start. So what we have at the moment within the digital partnership, we've got 31 of the 32 Scottish local authorities, which is fantastic. And the digital partnership is local governments, not Scottish government, so big difference. And it was started by chief executives about 19 months ago. No one council can take on digital transformation on their own, so they're getting into the spirit of doing once and sharing 32 times. And given that the pace of change is so high, we need to continue to develop the different expertise that exists across all the councils and actually sharing, which is a really big thing. And as you can see, part of that partnership we have Solace, COSLA, the Scottish Government, Improvement Service. You can see it, and again, 31 out of 32 councils is phenomenal. So anyone who's new to the partnership, this is a really, I love this graphic because it gives a clear, or to me, it's a very clear structure. Those kind of three pillars of the actual partnership itself. Our foundations, services, and leadership mirror the Scottish local government's digital strategy, which does say that all councils will be digital businesses by 2020. So to the left, under foundations, we have a project on cloud and a cyber security work stream, which is led by Andy Grayland, who's the Chief Information Security Officer, and just like everyone in the partnership, available to support any council. There's a better use of data project, which is led by North Lanarkshire, and a mobile and flexible work stream by Aberdeenshire. The Common Platforms project looks at how we can share components and create common data sets across councils. And if we look under leadership, we have the Skills project, which is what we're going to talk about this morning. We have Digital Maturity Leadership Model, which is something that can be used with senior leaders, an Elected Members Programme, and a project looking at the methods and skills that we need to transform services. And it's important to note, digital services covers digital learning, teaching, health and social care, the use of latent assets and customer digital interactions. So that's a really quick introduction to the local government digital partnership. And if you're not involved, get involved. It's completely open, and it's such a phenomenal partnership. The amount that's available for you today, how you'll be able to contribute. It's absolutely crucial to be involved. So to try and make this a bit more interactive, we have a poll. So there's two questions here. So the first question is going to be around, do you think your organisation is open to new ways of thinking? And there is a second question, around selecting which of the following areas that your organisation has achieved. So we're going to run this poll for a couple of minutes just to see what that comes back with. That's where I call on Siobhan to work her magic. So that's an interesting start. So right now, for that first question, thinking of your organisation is open to new ways of thinking. Just under 90% feel that yes, that's true. And for the no, very keen to try and better understand and see what anything that we can do to maybe help with that. So the follow-up question is around select which of the following areas your organisation has achieved. That's really quite interesting to see. Excellent. So that was a little bit of an icebreaker. We've got more to come. You'll be pleased to know. So let's move on with this morning's webinar. Let me just leave this. So the Digital Skills Project is just one of the many projects that you've seen on a few slides back, and it's around, it's a programme of work that fits the needs of tomorrow's digital workplace, and that's quite a high-level summary, and we're going to go into a lot more detail about what that actually means. For today, our aims is to give you progress on the project so far, hopefully to get you involved in the community if you're not already, and to get you in touch with perhaps people who are leading or making progress or inroads in areas that are maybe of particular interest to you, but also gives you the opportunity to offer up your time, your help in areas that perhaps others need some support with. And lastly, it's a chance for us to hear what you need. So it is certainly you get in what you put out, and we very much hope to get you involved. So digital is disruptive. Many people talk about digital disruption. They refer usually to the likes of Apple, Amazon, Uber, Airbnb, Netflix, Spotify, etc. And we'll tell you about how they've disrupted global markets, in many cases in a very short space of time and with no or little assets of their own. Typically, new digital businesses are looking to use technology and exploit it to match supply and demand. I think about the days when I'd go to Blockbuster Video, get my video on a Friday night, and then put it through the wee letterbox on a Sunday, There is, I believe, one store left in America, but it's more like a museum. And you look at what Netflix has done. Very little physical assets or stores. It's more around data centers and using technology. So definitely disruptive. Organizations like Airbnb, they don't actually own the physical assets. It's almost like a community, yet Airbnb are the biggest in the world at what they do. And there are so many more examples. You look at organizations such as HMV, Kodak, even, global household brands that did have a really dominant market share over decades can disappear overnight. And that can't happen to the public sector, of course. Well, or can it? So we're going to talk a little bit about something called Babylon. And it's an online service that provides access to GPs from anywhere in the UK. You're not tied to the relationship that you have with your own GP. You can instant message, chat, even video call with them. And if you need a subscription, it can be sent to your local chemist. So we're not immune to digital disruption. If we don't disrupt ourselves, then somebody else will. So digital is not the new name for IT. It's absolutely not. And technology doesn't just sit on the desk anymore. It's all around us. Most of us probably use a smartphone, or we have a tablet. We wear smart technology, so we may have a smartwatch. We may have a fitness tracker, but it's much more bigger than just us as people and citizens. It's also around our homes, things like thermostats that has geolocation technology, so knowing when you're maybe 10 miles away from home and it can put the heating on for you. Smart lighting, so go away on holiday, I forgot to put the lights off, using a smartphone or another device, being able to switch it off. Our towns and even our cities are becoming more and more connected. Intelligent street lighting that can actually notify that they're broken ahead of being reported, so that people are not necessarily have to phone them in. Smart bins to be able to detect how ready they are to be collected. And that's only going to explode even more. So you think about IoT, the Internet of Things, think about 5G, mobile technology. More and more devices are going to become connected. Technology is becoming more intelligent. It's no longer just computing, it's thinking. So with tools like Amazon Alexa, Google Home, with Apple Siri, you can talk to your devices. You can talk to your car. Cars can drive themselves. The same technology that allows cars to drive, artificial intelligence, is being applied to health and law. And in one trial of 32 cases, artificial intelligence came to the same conclusion as judges in 96% of the cases. AI is being used in a number of trials to detect cancer and has similar success rates. But it could be even bigger than that. You could be looking at, and one of the Gartner trends tells us that artificial intelligence could actually be starting to look for missing people. So if you have cameras, for example, that have facial recognition technology, then there is a massive potential added value. As you can see, technology is absolutely all around us. Our pets are even starting to get connected now, and one of our project leads even has a Twitter account for our dog. Hey Paula. And we talked about digital disruption. So another example is around how it can deliver much more than process optimization. It's also much more than self-service as well. The way that we are actually delivering work is changing, and digital definitely allows us to reimagine services. And what you can see here is real. This is absolutely real. What we've got here is a subway station in South Korea, and effectively this is a supermarket who are trying to establish themselves but couldn't compete with their biggest competitor because they had so many physical sites or stores where people could go in and shop. But because there's so many commuters that use the subway system, working in partnership with Samsung, they created these sort of digital boards. And effectively what we have here is citizens are going and they're actually scanning what they would like to have delivered for their home shopping. By the time they get home, it can actually be delivered on the doorstep. And this is now absolutely overtaken physical assets or stores. So, you know, digital disruption is not necessarily a bad thing. So we're in the midst of a fourth industrial revolution. I cannot stress how exciting that is. It's building on that digital revolution, looking at new ways in which technology becomes embedded in society. And what that means for us is this is a tremendously exciting time. No longer is technology the barrier, it's our imagination. And that's terribly exciting. It's a huge opportunity to reimagine, to redesign services, all with the aim of making things better for our citizens. We may have in the past looked at technology as a way to potentially help us realise savings, but it's bigger than that. It's about delivering better outcomes, redesigning services. So it's, you know, this is massive. Change is definitely going to be the norm. You know, in the 70s and 80s, in era 1, which is what we have in the green here, work was driven by large enterprise systems, and you know, pace of change was pretty slow. We worked our processes around the systems. Then when the World Wide Web came in sort of late 80s, early 90s, we kind of moved into era 2, which is the blue, which was around, you know, channel shift to website, online forms, and it was a transactional acidity. Now we're very much moving to era 3, and the pace of change is absolutely exponential. You know, you can see that from the curve of the graph. Technology is improving rapidly with things like artificial intelligence and the IoT, you know, the Internet of Things, where it's moving into society, and even our bodies with wearable technology keeps people safe in their homes. Focus on prevention and early intervention using sensors to predict events, which opens up an outcome-focused world which we can really reimagine services. And one thing I've seen, and I'm not an advocate of any particular product, when I watched the keynote for Apple's latest watch, what I loved most about that was the sensor technology that can detect a fall. The device itself can have an embedded SIM, so that opens up a huge possibility for developers, whereby, you know, if someone has an accident and falls, it can automatically make a phone call using the embedded SIM, not necessarily needing to have other wearable technologies. The fact that it has a heart rate monitor and an ECG, you know, that means that developers can start to build and program a series of events that, well, if it detects a fall, takes a heart rate measurement, checks ECG, makes a telephone call, can automatically get in touch with a healthcare professional. It's phenomenal. It's a really, really, really exciting time. So when nothing stays still, what skills do we need to survive? So, you know, in this pace of change with technology, you know, is the answer to become more human. So one of the, certainly we would recommend, and we'll certainly share a link afterwards for the Skills Development Scotland, and you could see, you know, the creativity, feeling, and you could see from here, this is where we can absolutely excel without a shadow of doubt. And because we are living in this constant world of change, a quote from one chief executive recently, which emphasised the need that due to the pace of change for staff to be flexible, as we move away from fixed specialisms and the future of work, where we'll have the opportunity to change roles throughout our career. So the employer for life, but not a job for life, was from one chief executive. And I think that's absolutely, true. Work is something that we do rather than a place that we go. But because of the pace of change, we need good e-learning opportunities and also more access to service data, to self-serve using dashboards, skills in data analytics where decisions are being driven by data managers. We need skills to be able to interpret data, and that is a huge thing. Digital isn't, again, it's not the new name for IT, but it's thinking about how do we use all this data. If you watch the Skills Development Scotland video, you know that the 90% of all of the data that exists was created in the last 2 years. That's huge, and it's only growing exponentially. So again, with this pace of change and an employer for life but not a job for life, we owe it to staff to give them the skills and tools to be flexible in their approach to work so that they can take advantage of technology and to keep up with the pace of change. So this is where we now start to talk a little bit about the Digital Skills Project. So at the moment, what we have, what you can see on screen here are kind of 8 key themes, which we're looking to pull together and actually creating a playbook. So what we have here is, you can see on the screen, being able to map digital skills to roles, to existing posts, and develop resources. And you can see to do some gap analysis, identifying the skills required, not just in this next 6 months or year or two. It's about that much forward looking, so 2, 5 and 10 years time, and looking at capacity for digital leadership. So this is almost the core structure of our digital skills project. In here is who we have involved. So you can see there is a lot of people involved in the project, and there's absolutely room for more. And I can see some familiar names here who are joining us this morning. So there is a lot of interest. There is a lot of sharing, honesty, and absolutely it has been, I must admit, for me personally, a very valuable resource to be able to share, bounce ideas. It really is a fantastic group of people, and I know that when I hand over to Jackie shortly, she'll absolutely agree with me. And before I hand over to Jackie, the only other thing that I would like to say is that you can get in touch with us at absolutely any time. Make sure that you are signed up for the Knowledge Hub. It really is a fantastic tool, and I appreciate if you've managed to stay awake this morning. I'm very grateful, and on that note, I am going to hand over to Jackie.
Hi, I'm Jackie Martin, and I was muted at the beginning, but actually I am the Programme Manager for Digital Skills. So thanks very much to Chris there for giving us a really good overview of why digital skills is so important for people. So as Chris quite rightly pointed out, Chris is a project manager for the project, so that's been fantastic, and having his own skills has been amazing. We have this digital skills community, so what that really means is a group of people who have got together from different councils to start talking about some of the things that I'm going to introduce you to in the following slides. I'll be about 15-20 minutes at the most, and then we'll move to questions and answers. But what I'm keen for you to do throughout the presentation is just to add areas that you think you would like to know more about, because what we're going to do is hopefully have some more webinars, invite people from different councils to come and speak about the areas of expertise they've got. But we need to know what out of this presentation that I go into are you most interested in. So we can use the questions and answer box for that, please. So we've got the digital skills community. We've got a meetup every 6 weeks. We meet up both using Skype and we meet in Glasgow in a hotel there. We've actually got one tomorrow at 1 o'clock. So anybody's welcome from the council, from 31 councils, to come along to that. We've been quite active as a group. We've held 3 workshops in different locations, and the numbers have grown. So the workshops we've invited anybody from a council along to that. So the last workshop we held was in September in Perth. We got about 50 people there. We're also active on Twitter, and we have a lot of people in our Knowledge Hub, like 800 members. The ultimate aim of all the stuff I'm going to talk to you about is to create an online playbook to put it all into. So we'll have how-to blogs, toolkits, checklists, case studies, mentoring information. So a one-stop shop area that people can find all this information. Now, I wanted to I've stolen this slide from the Scottish Council for Voluntary Organisations, and they're one of our project leads. So our project leads are Pauline Halligan from East Dunbartonshire, Nicola Graham from Aberdeenshire Council, and David McNeil from the Scottish Council for Voluntary Organisations, and Chris is our project manager. This slide's really good because it shows you 4 types of digital skills. And for digital muggles, these are people where technology might as well be magic. And we've got 11% of the population who have never ever accessed the internet. So that area of digital muggles would fall in there. Moving to digital citizens. So everybody should have essential or basic digital skills. And both in their own personal life to be able to use technology and also in work. And at the moment, 21% of the UK population, the adults, lack basic or essential digital skills. So that would be quite a fair percentage of our workforce. Moving up to digital workers. So these are people in the workforce who would acquire an extra level of skills, a slightly higher level than the basic level of digital skills. These are people who probably have to operate a particular system. They may be in communications team and they're doing social media, or it may be around data analytics, as Chris has pointed out. That's going to become more and more important. So they're people who require a slightly higher level of digital skills. And then digital makers, they're the highest level of digital skills. So these would be your ICT support staff, development operations staff, maybe some of your enterprise architects, and indeed coders as well. So that's quite a nice overview of 4 types of digital skills. What are we doing in the partnership around skills gaps? Well, the Scottish Council for Voluntary Organisations, you'll see there's a picture on the screen there of a toolkit that they've just produced. And there's also the URL at the bottom of the slides there too. And in this toolkit, there is a checklist that councils are now starting to use to measure where they currently are in terms of their essential digital skills of their full workforce. So this includes your non-PC users as well. And this has been proved really helpful to find out where they are and what areas we need to concentrate on to give people those life skills. So there's some really good, interesting stuff, lessons learned about how you would capture non-PC users. So if you want to get in touch with us, we can talk about that in more detail. We also have we're setting up an online survey that you can use from the digital office and customise with your own logo. And North Lanarkshire is just about to use that with its 14,000 staff. We also have some programmes that work on digital champions. So a lot of councils are going out there, they're recruiting people as volunteers in their workforce to mentor and coach other people around essential digital skills. And Dundee's done some really exciting work around this, and even got them to create the role of a digital champion, and they've shared that in a case study that they've given to us. Perth and Kinross, Chris himself has actually been working with graduates to upskill staff around. They've actually got a physical digital toolkit that they hire out to staff so they can create their own video content or create their own meetings or use Skype and so forth. And then if we talk about the wider workforce plan, East Dunbartonshire has done some really exciting stuff. They have done a very rigorous review of all the skills across their full workforce, including digital skills, to find out where they currently are and where they need to be. and they've identified gaps that they need to plug, and in particular they've done a lot of work around succession planning, and they've shared all the templates and all video case study of them in Knowledge Hub as well. And finally, we've got a digital skills template that we've sent out to every council. So this is a copy of the template that we've sent, and it's sitting now with heads of HR, and the closing date's the 20th of November. And what we've wanted to do is we've wanted to find out what skills and roles are you developing in your councils just now? What do you think is quite important for you in your digital transformation journey? Are you going to upskill or grow your own or buy in these skills? And do you have any difficult to recruit roles or skills around this? And the other thing that we're really keen to know about is there opportunity to share some of the digital skills that we're creating between councils? So far I've had 11 returns from councils. I'm hoping to get, a full return, because, and this is what I'm trying to show you, a couple of things that's coming out. This is just really rough, but this was what people are saying around what roles are important to them. So just like Chris was talking about, data analytics is up near the top. The need to have digital transformation roles in councils, and actually I've had quite a lot of feedback that that's quite difficult to recruit those roles. Cyber security is really top of the list there. But what's interesting when you ask people about their areas of expertise, there appears to be lots of expertise around cyber security as well. Moving on to skills mapping. So the Scottish Government have created a profession called Digital Data and Technology, or DDAT for short. And what they've done is they have mapped their existing skills that they had in IT over to this new framework. So instead of being called a head of IT, you'll be called a head of digital data and technology. But on top of that, they've created new communities around that grouping, obviously new in data, and also a whole unit around service design and user research. So Alan O'Neill in South Ayrshire Council has been looking at that, framework, and also the Sophia framework, which is the skills for the information age. And he's just started to create a framework which could be used in local government, which takes elements of those two. So that's a piece of work underway. One of the asks of their digital skills project was, could you tell us what you think the future skills are going to look like in 2, 5 and 10 years? So we're working on that just now. I'm going to produce a report on it. And, we've got some information from Gartner there. And just as Chris was talking about earlier in his introduction, we'll be moving away from sort of physical type activity and basic cognitive skills. Because of automation, we're moving towards being more human, as Chris said, and having more focus on flexible tutoring, mentoring, coaching people. And that's going to be the way forward, and also creating innovation and technological skills will be extremely important here as well. And that's just a kind of flavour of the types of roles that councils are looking at just now, and what future roles are going to be, where we'll see more specialist roles appear. But you can see data analytics, data science in there. You can also see the design literacy skills for reimagining services, and also a big emphasis on account management and commercialisation type roles as well. So we have one of the major digital leadership programme that we've got here, and what Chris mentioned earlier was the digital maturity model. So we've got a leadership model. So what we do is we go out and we interview chief execs, directors, heads of service, and we ask them where they currently are in their digital transformation journey, and we find out where they want to be. We've got a couple of reports available which summarises the key themes coming out of those. The individual councils' reports are confidential, but and we found that people have found them very useful. But we do have filled out key themes and best practice as well, so they're available for people. We're now creating peer interviewers, so we're getting one council to go and do interviews with another council. So Jenny Syme from North Ayrshire, she went and did the interviews of the senior leadership team of Argyll and Bute, and she found that really, really useful. There was a mutual benefit there. So that's the kind of approach we're encouraging. We've got about another 8 councils lined up in the new year to go through that process. Following on from that, we quite often get invited back to do workshops with the senior leadership team. And we have a lot of material around that councils can reuse themselves if they're needing to do that with their own leadership teams. North Lanarkshire have done an excellent video, which we can ask to share, but they've got their senior leadership team. It was for their staff to explain how digital is going to impact on their jobs. And actually, they've made it really positive, and they included staff within it. So I think that that's something really that we could all learn from. And finally, Shetland's done a lot of work around e-learning and creating digital leadership programs with TED Talks, how-to blogs and stuff. So we're hoping to take that to the next level as well and create something nationally. A major part of digital skills is the culture. And what we've found through working with all the councils, all yourselves, is that there's different cultures in different councils, but we can see a real change happening. So they're much more moved to more flexible ways of working and people having choice around how and where they work. And so, for example, Western Bartonshire, we've got a case study there, and they have moved from quite a traditional organisation to something quite modern in terms of they have taken away the flexi-time system, which they felt was actually being detrimental to actual proper flexible working. And they have created work styles for their staff, and when they recruit people, there'll be a work style assigned to that as well. So they're really moving in the direction of anytime, anywhere working. And obviously the manager has to take the business needs, it's all about business needs, into account, but also they can work with the employee around how they work best. Job roles is something that Scottish Borders has moved to, so they've moved away from job descriptions to job roles. Again, that's a key element of moving into a new culture where you're offering more flexibility for both your staff and also for the organisation as a whole. I've mentioned champions earlier, but also there's in the City of Edinburgh Council, they've been looking at innovation champions, and they've been creating a culture of innovation. So this is going to be incredibly important as the pace of change steps up. We need to have proper focus on innovation in councils. And finally, the big message I'm hoping you're taking away from here is about that need for continual learning and supporting staff. And I mentioned earlier, Shetland have done a lot of work around e-learning and developing really engaging content, including staff, around how-to blogs, even for their social care staff and those staff that are out and about, they can access this learning for them. So obviously there's a lot of really best practice that's available. It's available from our website, and what you can do is we've also got the Knowledge Hub, but if you go onto the website first, there'll be links to various areas for you to pick up that information. Also get involved in the meetups, and then you can hear from the actual people themselves about what they're doing. But one of the things we want to do, and the ask of the digital skills community, is that we want to create some national deliverables here. We're all doing good stuff and it's great sharing, but we would like to take this to the next level. So these are the national deliverables we're looking at the moment. So as mentioned earlier, how can we share skills and roles between councils? For example, Edinburgh City Council is developing artificial intelligence expertise. So how could the rest of the councils tap into that? Then we want to look at e-learning across councils and the content that's there that we could share, the methods that support a very flexible way to do learning and self-supporting. Scottish Council for Voluntary Organisations, I mentioned them earlier, they do a phenomenal amount of work in the community around upskilling people around essential digital skills for citizens. So can they help us in councils to mentor our digital champions that we're creating? So they're coming to us with a proposal on how they might do that. I've mentioned service design, and we've got a separate webinar on that, and Stephen Kyle from Dundee City Council, his whole transformation programme is using service design. So he's a great person to, if you're not connected with him, to connect with him. But we're also working together to see how can we scale up the use of service design across local government. We have a 3-day service design champion course, which is oversubscribed, and there's a real need across councils for this form of transformation, collaborative transformation. So we're looking at how we do that. Finally, I've not really mentioned the National Digital Learning Hub, but Scottish Government is running a sprint just now to look at the feasibility of creating a national digital learning hub for the whole of the public sector. And it's very early stage just now, but as local government, we're really linked in with this. And so some of the information that I'm going to be collecting from councils, I can pass on for that sprint. You know, we've got the Scottish Digital Academy just now. It's really excellent. A lot of councils are using their agile training and service design champion training, but how can we make that bigger? What else could it cover? How can we get the National Digital Learning Hub to support careers and career changes and opportunities? So this sort of coming to the end of the presentation now, and that's just really a summary of the project deliverables that I've just spoke about quite briefly there. As I say, I hope that we could have further webinars and go into detail about some of these elements, but for that I would quite like to know what questions or what areas you're most interested in. So using the questions and answer box, can I ask you to tell us what you would like to hear more about in the next webinar?
And equally, just to follow on what Jackie is saying, if you have any questions about anything you've kind of heard today, again, just using that questions box. We're now at that phase of the presentation where we'll take anything you've got to ask. So use and abuse us while we're here.
While you're typing into the questions, this is just a wee bit of information about our next meetup, which is tomorrow, and all councils are welcome. Some information about where we've got all the information on our website. You can email us anytime, and we've got a monthly newsletter as well. So that's just how to get in touch with us on that last slide. But we'll see if there's any questions that either Chris or I. So I don't know, Chris, if you want to go first with the questions.
Yes, so let's have a look. So Paula is asking more about job roles and how to embed digital skills into job roles. Yeah, so I think that certainly a lot of the work that we've done in the project so far, especially around, Jackie, I'm sure you'd agree with me, around DDAT, it can certainly help with what Paul is asking there about our job roles and how to embed. But I think with embedding digital skills into roles, I think that also involves potentially a little bit around what some councils are doing with job families. So even what Heather Melville has done around the job family side of things.
Absolutely, I think we could get Heather to come and talk about the work she's done there. You know, she's dramatically changed the number of, they had all these job descriptions to maintain and update, and now there's a lot less, and they're now into job roles, and you know, it's created a much better approach to workforce planning as well. So I think we'll get Heather to cover that, and I'm sure she would be happy to do that. So maybe that's our next webinar, job roles. Yeah.
Let's see who else we've got here. So we have developing. So Sarah Tennant, developing learning content and digital leadership skills, including elected members review with COSLA. Digital learning content, Jackie, it's been a huge one for us as a project, hasn't it? Ever since seeing what Shetland have introduced. And digital leadership skills is definitely something that's, I know that is particularly in demand as well at the moment.
Yeah, so Aberdeen City Council have, they did a sort of one-to-one skills audit of their senior leadership team. So we're hoping to catch a case study on that. I think that's quite interesting. So, and then what they did is they provided coaching and mentoring for a senior leadership team for any areas that they needed to concentrate on. I think the e-learning stuff, so that's one of our national deliverables. We want to see what the appetite is in councils for creating more of a shared approach to some of the e-learning that we have currently at the moment. And that might include elected members. So we've just done that survey of elected members to ask them, you know, how they want to learn. And we've asked them about their current knowledge of digital transformation and their own skills as well. And one of the things that's come up is that they do want to learn more and they would be interested in e-learning. So there's real opportunity nationally to look at this. So.
Right, let's see some other questions. So from Alison, I'd like to understand more about what future digital skills Council require. Now, that's a really interesting one because I think that I don't know how far you are into looking at this, Alison, but I know for what we've been doing in the partnership as a whole are absolutely recommending the new essential skills framework and toolkit. What most organisations are starting to do, and we are midway through doing this, is start to take the pulse of the organisation or to benchmark where we are currently with skills. So I think it's really important to know where you are before obviously starting to look at then what you need going forward. So would you agree with that one, Jackie?
I would, and I'd also say that, so that'll tackle the essential digital skills. Then there's a need for that, in that screen I had about the digital worker, to look at people who need have a higher level of digital skills, maybe data analytics, social media skills, so they're on a higher level. So looking at, that also being able to understand, where you are there. In terms of future roles and the more specialist, maybe the digital maker side of things is more specialist roles. That's a piece of work that we're working with Gartner and meeting with Skills Development Scotland as well. So we want to produce a report for release 4, which gives more information about where we think those future roles and skills are going to be. It's very interesting from the template that we've sent out to councils, what people are saying around that some councils are developing areas of expertise around some of these digital roles and skills. So could other councils tap into that rather than buying in from external, can we grow our own across councils? So if one person's got expertise in AI, could we have apprentices who go and look at that and work in another council? So that's the type of thing that we're thinking about.
David Brown, who is using RPA or working toward, plus pros and cons? David, you can get in touch with ourselves. So we have an enterprise architect role and a technical architect who is looking at RPA. So for those who are not sure on that, that's robotic process automation. So feel free to get in touch with myself, and I can put you in touch with the people who are currently looking at that one just now for you.
I think also Renfrewshire is doing a wee bit work around that as well with their revs and benefits. I'm sure we were capturing a case study around that. So also that you can use a knowledge hub too to put out questions around, who's doing what. And already we're getting really good responses from all of you to that. So it's excellent.
Let's see. So Stuart, e-learning content mapped to framework. Yeah, I think. So this is one I'm definitely passionate about as well. I mean, I think the work that has been done in Shetland around, learning pathways, which is, linked into some of the work that's been done around job families. So, recruiting, a new member of staff that belongs in a particular family of jobs would automatically potentially have their e-learning content, pre-mapped out for them, and, building the relationship between that member of staff and their line manager could then be opening up completely new pathways of learning. It's linked into, Stuart, what we're trying to probably do nationally around e-learning. I'm sure, Jackie, would you agree with that one?
I would, and it's interesting because I can see from some of the other comments that people are putting here that, there's the University of West of Scotland are currently running a digital learning content or digital leadership class. So there's a lot of good resources out there, and potential to have a look at this as a whole, and to see how we do this. I mean, Shetland have done a phenomenal job. They've created, as you say, all these different e-pathways, one for customer first, and they've got one for digital leadership. So there's a lot of information that's either been created or curated that we could work together on as a partnership.
Yeah, sorry. So Debbie Booth, I'd like to have a discussion about how we can increase digital access to our employees who do not routinely have access to digital tools, so using their own devices, etc. We've done some work with our employee groups, but need to do more. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good question. potentially looking at posting up on the Knowledge Hub. So we do have the Knowledge Hub where you can ask the partnership. There are organisations who are looking at, BYOD, bring your own device, some are at different stages. But this is a very crucial area because if we want to be inclusive in making sure everyone has access to these tools, there are, for ourselves, we've got a lot of staff who perhaps very rarely come into the office, so looking at how we're working mobile and flexibly, so potentially looking at some of the devices and systems like Total Mobile, like how do we enable and give people access to these tools. So that might be a good one to have a look on the Knowledge Hub to see potentially who's at what stage with perhaps BYOD. Dundee have just done a huge amount of work in their digital week where they were actually surveying staff using the SCVO framework, benchmarking those essential skills and actually going to staff who did not have access to devices, and whether it be with a tablet to actually complete that, or whether it would be filling in a form, and they got a fantastic response rate. So there's definitely work that's been done in that area, and Knowledge Hub probably has quite a bit of content there to look at.
Also, to add to that, Chris, is actually a mobile and flexible working project, and they did a show and tell recently, a recorded show and tell, so you can get that from the YouTube channel. But they'll be looking at that type of thing as well, bring your own device across councils. So it's definitely worth. Aberdeenshire are the lead council for that. So one of the things I didn't stress, I don't think before, was that for all the projects, it's councils that are either taking a lead, they're participating, or they're following. So that's the kind of power, I think, of this whole project, is the fact that it's yourself that are doing this. So, is there any more questions? I think we probably
conscious of time. So there's a couple more. So I don't know, Jackie, if you want to pick up the one from Bob. So Bob's questions is around rural areas and potentially the areas of poor connectivity. And it's just wondering how closely the partnership are working with the Scottish Government to improve connectivity.
Okay, well, we have a really good relationship with Scottish Government. So our Chief Digital Officer, Martin Wallace, meets Scottish Government on a very regular basis. So that's one of the value of being so linked up in terms of the partnership. I don't have that answer to you just now, but I definitely will feed back afterwards. But it's something when I've been doing the digital maturity in Orkney, and we've been to Western Isles and also in Argyll and Bute, but basically in lots of councils that there's an issue around connectivity. It's also come up in the elected member survey about the plans that we have for the rollout. So I think I'll follow up your question, I'll answer that separately. But it's definitely, we have really good relationship with Scottish Government, and we're constantly providing information to them around what local government needs.
And George, thank you very much for the content that you've shared for the University of West Scotland. So we'll certainly make sure. I think someone's replied, but we'll definitely make sure that we'll share that. Diane, recruitment process breaking down barriers and developing internal skills hub. Yeah, this is another one I'm really quite passionate about, and I see the essential skills framework. We're doing a piece of work just now to see if we could potentially have new starts almost complete a questionnaire whereby the recruiting line manager already knows what digital skills a person has when they join an organisation, and that's more around aligning the potential pathways of learning for them. So coming in knowing that, well, we know what the role or what is potentially going to be expected of them, but how do we then support that member of staff in their development? But if there's something specific, Diane, around the recruitment process, definitely let Jackie or I know. And the only other thing from George there is around employee access to digital. So, NHS Education Scotland has done quite a piece of work on this. So that's really good to know. And I think that's us pretty much up to date with our questions.
Okay. On that note, Alison McBride from Western Berkshire, we've been talking about the recruitment process itself and whether it's fit for purpose now with what we need to do. So some councils like Essex Council has produced quite a radical recruitment video to attract people, and it's like no other video I've seen before. It's asking for people who are going to challenge, who are risk takers. So these are kind of things you think, well, what organisation are they recruiting for? And then at the very end it says this is Essex County Council. So we're looking at, currently the way we recruit and, how we perceive recruitment and what skills we need to bring into local government. So that's another strand that we're also hoping to cover in the digital skills community. Do you think that's us then, Chris? And obviously what I'd really like to know from all the people hopefully listening is, what areas do you want to know more information? That was a very kind of quick summary of quite a lot of stuff that we're up to. But actually, if you want further webinars, what do you want to concentrate on? Or indeed, if you've got stuff yourself that you think other people should know about, please follow up either by emailing us or getting in touch with us in some shape or form.
Yeah, definitely. I think if you're not already doing so, if you follow the digital office on Twitter, so at digital office LG, then certainly there's a lot of work that we're putting out, and we're use and abuse us. We're willing to and happy to share and help in any way we can. And the fact that there's no more questions, we're going to, I think we'll end on that note.
Okay, well, thanks so much for listening, and thanks also to the digital skills community, because we wouldn't have any of this without them. So this is all showcasing the work that they are up to in local government. So thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.